Hello and welcome to another Ghost Stefana Recap video. Now the purpose of this video is to let you know exactly what happens in Naughty Dog's 2022 game, The Last of Us Part 2. So, naturally, spoilers are ahead. Now this game is a sequel to the original Last of Us, released in 2013, and although the game takes place 5 years in the future from that game, it's still worth you knowing what happens. To save time in this video, I'll skip that part, but here's a separate story recap of the first game if you need it. Our story begins a short time on from the events of the first game. We see Joel confessing to his brother Tommy about the truth of what happened at the hospital with the fireflies at the end of The Last of Us. While he tells Tommy, we see flashbacks from the first game. After his confession, Joel and Tommy ride back to Jackson, where they are now settled. Tommy tells his brother that he'll take his secret to the grave.
I'll take it to the grave if I have to.
We then see Joel deliver a guitar to Ellie, whom, alongside Joel, has begun to settle into a settlement in Jackson. We now flash forward 4 years to 2038. Joel and Ellie are still residing in Jackson. Ellie is now a teenager and is close to Jesse and his ex-girlfriend, Dina. Although it is heavily implied there is a bit more to the friendship of Ellie and Dina, as in the initial conversation with Jesse, Ellie reveals that Dina kissed her last night. After the conversation with Jesse, we set out on patrol duty with Dina and Jesse. We now switch playable characters to the game's newest addition, Abby. She is alongside a man named Owen and overlooking the Jackson settlement. In conversation, they suggest that they are looking for a certain man.
Assuming he's in there, how do we get to him?
Switching back to Ellie and Dina, they decide to shelter for a while due to the storm. They find an old weed den. They settle in and naturally smoke a spliff together, and then, oh, bloody hell. Meanwhile, Abby is having a less fun time. After venturing out on her own without Owen, she stumbles across a large and aggressive horde and is forced to flee. With the end seemingly looming for our new playable character, she is saved by Tommy and Joel, who spotted her while out patrolling. The trio finds themselves penned in by the infected, and Abby suggests that they go to a nearby lodge where her people are currently stationed. Meanwhile, in Lover's Corner, Ellie and Dina are cuddling after they just... well, you can get it. While they whisper sweet nothings to each other, I sit there realising that sweet, innocent, lovable little girl I knew in the first game is long gone. During the cute embrace, Dina spots Ellies Scar. If you didn't know and didn't play the first game, the scar is from a bite from an infected. Unlike everyone else, Ellie didn't turn, meaning she is immune to the infection, which is why she was so important and sought after in the first game. She confides in Dina and tells her the truth about its origin, but Dina just assumes that she is joking.
Ow! Fuck you.
What? Hey!
I told you a real fucking story.
I did tell you a real fucking story.
Then Dina's ex-boyfriend Jesse arrives. Awkward. Flashback to Abby. She, Tommy and Joel arrive at the lodge and are helped inside by Abby's people who fight back the horde. When inside, the brothers thank Abby's group and introduce themselves. However, when Joel states his name, the room falls deathly quiet.
This is my brother.
Joe.
Abby then shoots Joel in the leg. The two are restrained, and before Abby can even tell Joel who she is and why she so clearly dislikes him, she smashes him in the head with a golf club. Oh, and you're welcome for the rescue, by the way, Abby. But not to worry, Ellie is here to save the day. She sneaks into the lodge and finds a near-death Joel still being knocked around 9 holes. Before she can save him, she is herself captured by Abby's people. She pleads with Owen and Abby to free Joel before Abby, in a way, kinda does. She kills our original playable character with a cruel and devastating blow. A distraught Ellie vows to kill Abby before she herself is knocked out. short time later, Ellie awakens and is helped by Dina. Back in Jackson, Tommy, who was saved by Dina and Jesse, pleads with Ellie to not go after the killers and to wait so that they can go together when the time is right. Ellie then buries Joel. Rest in peace, buddy. Thanks for the memories. The next day, we learn through a note left to Maria, Tommy's wife, that he has gone after the killers on his own, not wanting Ellie to risk her own life. Naturally, Ellie and Dina head off on Tommy's trail. After a long walk, they arrive in Seattle. During their journey through the city, Ellie finds a guitar and serenades her lover with a cover of a-ha's 1984 hit, Take On Me. Not hugely relevant to the story, but it is nice and a good tune, so, you know, enjoy a bit of it.
I'll be gone in a day or two.
Back on the journey, Ellie learns that Abby's group are part of the Washington Liberation Front, or WLF as they are known for short, and are currently stuck in a conflict with another group known as Seraphites. Continuing on Tommy's trail, Ellie is captured by the WLF. She is interrogated as to how she found them in Seattle by a man named Jordan. Another man arrives and is about to kill Ellie before Dina saves her. However, Jordan shoots the glass roof, injuring Dina. The young WLF member is about to finish Dina off when Ellie says, when searching Jordan's stuff, they learn of his girlfriend Leah, who is positioned at a nearby TV station. Assuming she is also part of the Washington Liberation Front, the duo head there. When there, they discover a horrific sight with many bodies strung to the ceiling, assumingly due to the conflict between the WLF and the Seraphites. We find Leah, but predictably she is already dead. But we do find images of the rest of her group, most of which Ellie recognises from the lodge. After being pursued by WLF soldiers, we escape via the tunnels beneath the TV station. Due to spores in the air underground, Ellie and Dina are forced to wear a mask to prevent infection. However, during the journey, Ellie's mask is broken. Dina, fearing for Ellie's safety, offers to share hers with Ellie. But Ellie refuses again, reiterating that she is immune. This time, Dina believes her. After getting back above ground, Dina collapses. When in safety, she reveals that she is pregnant. Yep, the Dina, Jesse, Ellie love triangle just got a whole lot fucking weirder. Ellie initially reacts coldly to the news and harshly tells Dina that she is a burden to the mission. Our two young lovers soon make up and focus back on the mission. After finding a radio in the theatre, they intercept a WLF transmission, stating that they have spotted a lone male. Ellie and Dina assume this to be Tommy and set off. However, due to her condition, Ellie tells Dina to stay and continues alone. Ellie, however, isn't alone for long, and she soon runs into Jesse, who had set off after the duo had left Jackson. The search proves unsuccessful, and Ellie and Jesse return to the theatre. During a flashback, we see a slightly younger Ellie again asking Joel what happened back at the hospital in the first game. Joel again lies and claims there was no cure. After Dina intercepted a radio message, we learn one of Abby's group, Nora, is stationed at a nearby hospital. Ellie heads there. We find Nora in the hospital but are cornered by a WLF soldier. With nowhere to go, we jump into the spore-infested lower level. Nora, noticing that Ellie can breathe the spores, realises who she is. After refusing to reveal the rest of her group's location, Ellie beats her to death with a pipe, with Nora finally revealing that Abby is at an aquarium across the city. In a flashback, we see Ellie return to the hospital sometime after the events of the first game. Through tape recordings, she begins to decipher what happened and learns that there was a cure, but the person who could develop it was killed. After learning this, she again confronts Joel and tells him that she will leave if he doesn't tell her the truth. If he does tell her, she'll stay, no matter what it is.
Making a vaccine would have killed you. So I stopped them.
Oh my
Back in the present day, Jesse and Ellie overlook a sleeping Dina, and Jesse learns that she is pregnant with his child. The next day, the two head out in search of the aquarium. However, they overhear news of Tommy and disagree on approach. Jesse feels they should change course and follow the trail of Tommy, but Ellie defiantly states they should stay on the course of Abby. The two split up. Ellie makes it inside the aquarium and finds Owen, who is with a woman named Mel. Ellie shoots Owen before being tackled by Mel. After overpowering her, Ellie stabs her in the neck. She asks the dying Owen where Abby is, but he is unable to answer. Ellie then notices that Mel was pregnant, which sends Ellie into a state of shock. Moments later, Jesse arrives with Tommy, who whisks Ellie away. The trio arrive back at the theatre and begin to plan their next move. Moments later, a commotion is heard and Jesse and Ellie investigate. Upon opening the door, Jesse gets his head popped and we see Abby holding Tommy at gunpoint. At this point, we switch back to Abby and flash back several years. We see Abby and her dad Jerry. If, like me, you may feel like you recognise him, but we'll come to that. A younger Owen arrives in the flashbacks and tells Jerry that Marlene has a girl with a bite mark but no infection, and that she is at the hospital being tested on as we speak. At this point, you'll likely realise where we know Jerry from. He is the surgeon from the end of the first game. He discusses Ellie with Marlene and explains that Ellie will die during the surgery to extract what is needed from her brain to develop the cure. A jump forward in the flashback sees Abby arrive after the events of The Last of Us ending and discovers her dad dead thanks to Joel. Her vendetta now beginning to make sense. Our story now, in a sense, resets and we play chronologically from Abby's point of view a few days after she killed Joel. We begin back at the WLF base, which is inside an old stadium. Abby and Manny are briefed by the WLF leader, Isaac, to assemble squads to attack the Seraphites, or Scars, as they are known inside the WLF. When inquiring about Owen, Isaac reveals that he recently shot and killed Danny, one of their own men, while protecting a Seraphite member. Abby, refusing to believe Owen would do such a thing, sets out to find him before he can be captured by Isaac and his men. During a flashback, we learn that there was once a romantic relationship between Owen and Abby before he left her for Mel. While en route, Abby encounters a group of Scars and is captured. Abby is set to be hung by the Seraphites, whilst they also torture a young Seraphite named Yara. They ask Yara where the other apostate is before bashing her arm in. Moments later, Yara is saved by another young Scar, Yara's brother, Lev. Lev and Yara free Abby before departing. Abby continues and finds Owen, who tells her the truth about Danny. They encountered an old and defenseless Scar, which Owen refused to kill. Danny disagreed, and after a scuffle, Danny was accidentally shot. The two discuss plans to run away from the WLF and disagree over what happened with Joel. Then, after a pretty intense stare, they kiss and rekindle their romance. Things get a bit more intense, and then, oh, bloody hell. During the night, Abby suffers a bad dream in which she sees Lev and Yara being hanged. Because of this, she sets out to find the two youngsters. She finds Yara in a bad way. Her arm is essentially dead, and she decides to bring the two to Mel at the aquarium. However, Mel states that without proper equipment, there is nothing she can do. So Abby and Lev set out on a journey together to grab some supplies from a nearby hospital. Nora instructs Abby to go into the dangerous lower levels to retrieve the supplies that she needs. She does so, and fuck me, encounters your mum, it seems. With the supplies needed, we return to Yara, and Mel manages to amputate her arm and save her life. After talking to Yara, she reveals that the two siblings ran away because Lev, a female by birth, wanted to identify as a male. This would not have been accepted by the Seraphites. Sometime later, Lev sets off in search for his mother, who he resents for her treatment of him and Yara. This forces Abby to pursue him. Abby encounters fellow group member Manny, who is pursuing an unknown sniper, which is actually Tommy, as our two stories begin to join up. Manny is shot and killed by Tommy, and Abby narrowly survives by throwing Tommy into the water. Together with Yara, Abby arrives at the Seraphites Island. They find Lev, who is traumatized as his mother accidentally died during an argument between the two. Lev tried to make her understand his gender dysphoria before she fell and hit her head on a table whilst pursuing him. When leaving, Isaac and the WLF forces arrive. Enraged that Abby is helping Scars and fearing she is a traitor, he holds her at gunpoint. Yara saves us by killing Isaac, but in the process is killed herself. Abby and Lev, making their way through what is a war zone now due to the WLF attacking the island, find a boat and make it to safety. They arrive back at the aquarium and discover Mel and Owen dead. Lev finds a map left accidentally by Ellie, which reveals the location of the theatre. With our stories now synced up, we snap back to the theatre. Ellie explains she knows why Abby killed Joel, but tries to explain his actions. During the conversation, Tommy attacks Abby, giving Ellie time to flee, but is killed in the process. We are then, from the point of view of Abby, forced to fight Ellie, which, to be honest, felt a little bit weird. After a long and intense fight, Abby overpowers Ellie and begins to beat her to death. Moments later, Dina arrives and saves Ellie before Lev shoots Dina in the back. Abby prepares to kill Dina, but Ellie pleads for her life, explaining that she is pregnant. Abby doesn't seem to care, but Lev persuades her to spare her. With Ellie barely alive, Abby decides to spare her and leaves, telling Ellie to make sure that she never sees her again. We flash forward an unspecified time later. Ellie is alive and living with Dina, who has had her baby. The two live in a house together and seem happy. However, it is soon revealed that this isn't entirely true, as Ellie suffers from post-traumatic stress caused by Joel's death. A short time later, Tommy visits the two lovers at their home. Wait, what? That Tommy? Well, apparently, somehow, Tommy survived his gunshot to the head. But if Palpatine can return, then I'll believe anything. The injury has, however, left him frail and disabled. He reveals that he has heard a rumour about a woman built like an ox living on a sailboat. Suggesting it is Abby, he encourages Ellie to go and get her revenge. Dina tells Tommy that they are done with all that, and Ellie reluctantly agrees. Tommy, angry that Ellie won't exact revenge for Joel and being unable to do so himself, leaves. During the night, Ellie packs a bag and prepares to set off despite Dina's pleading. Ellie explains that she can't sleep, can't eat, and thinks that killing Abby will help her. Dina and Ellie say an emotional farewell, with Dina suggesting if Ellie goes, she won't be here when she comes back. We switch to Abby, who is still with Lev. They are in pursuit of the remnants of the Fireflies, hoping to join them. They make contact with someone claiming to be part of the Fireflies and head to meet them. However, the radio transmission is a ruse, and Abby and Lev are soon captured by unknown assailants. We switch to Ellie and follow the trail of Abby. However, we are caught in a trap set by the same attackers, with Ellie seriously injuring herself. But Ellie, being Ellie, escapes the trap and manages to kill the attackers, who reveal the location of Abby. We learn that Abby is being kept inside a slave encampment. It is discovered that Abby and Lev were defiant towards their captors and eventually tried to escape, but were caught. As punishment, they are both tied to a pillar on the beach to starve and die. Ellie discovers the duo barely alive and severely weakened. To Abby's surprise, Ellie frees her and she carries Lev to a nearby boat to leave the island. As the three look set to leave, Ellie, still unable to shake the past, tells Abby to fight her. Abby, through both her weakened state and also the fact that she is over and done with the past, refuses. Ellie pushes her to the ground as an attempt to provoke her, but still, Abby refuses. Eventually, Ellie threatens to kill Lev, which prompts Abby to reluctantly fight Ellie. The two engage for the second time in the game, with Abby managing to bite off 2 of Ellie's fingers. However, Ellie eventually overpowers Abby and begins to drown her. But she then experiences a flashback to happier times with Joel, which makes Ellie stop. Finally deciding to be at peace with her past, Ellie lets Abby go, and she and Lev depart in the boat, with the physically and emotionally drained Ellie remaining in the water. Sometime later, Ellie returns home, but as per her warning, finds that Dina has sadly left. She attempts to play the guitar, but due to her missing fingers, cannot. The game ends. Thank you for watching this video. Apologies, it was a long one, but a lot happens in this story, and I feel it's important you know some of the smaller things to best understand Abby and Ellie. For more videos just like this, then please do hit subscribe.